Good morning and welcome to How to Love Living. My name is Jeremy, and this podcast is to talk about just how to live your best life. And this week is our holiday special. So this is our holiday episode. And today, what I really want to talk about is just the challenges of the holidays. So holidays, I believe, can be pretty trying for a lot of different people. I think that there's a lot of stress around the holidays. Part of this is obligations for families. I think that there's stress around if you're alone. I think there's stress in, figuring out what gifts to get people and that sort of stuff. It makes it difficult. For me, the holidays sneak up on me, and this year was definitely something that happened to me. Was the holidays snuck up on me. Here I am. It's already time to do holiday gifts. It's already time to start doing all the things that, just bring happiness to people and stresses you out. Sometimes I think that emotions around holidays can be pretty tough. There could be, outside of the overall stress, there could be tensions within a family, within a familiar relationship. There could be issues with children, siblings, friends, and that sort of stuff, and a lot of stress related to that. You may have stress about decorating. You may have stress about all the variety of things that kind of come along with the holidays. And so this episode, I just want to talk about how to survive the holidays. And I think a lot of it is knowledge. I think a lot of it is once you start feeling that stress of the holidays, it's being knowledgeable that and managing that stress that's really, really important. Added to that complexity is family, jobs, the pandemic. They just add to the complexity. So some people's businesses, the jobs that they're in, get busier during the holidays. Some families struggle through generational trauma with the holidays, where some trauma that happened eons ago is carried up through the generations, generation over generation, and that could contribute to it. And the pandemic in general is contributing to it. There's a lot of questions about, do I see my family? How do I keep people safe? What do I do to be there for my family, but in a safe way, a cognizant way, and really work to be there, but not be there. And we can talk a little bit about that. The first thing, though, I want to hit upon is just the generational trauma or childhood trauma or just the stress of the holidays in general. And I believe every family has this. And we kind of perpetuate it because there's a lot of pressure from our society to say, okay, this is how the holidays go. And of course, each family has their own kind of version of how the holidays work out. And of course, there's a lot of joy that comes with getting to see family, exchanging gifts, getting surprised, and all that sort of stuff. But depending on your specific underlying complexities, it could be pretty rough. So part of what I want to talk about with that is just, what are your complexities? So I think a lot of it is introspection and thinking about, what things stress me out during the holidays? Is it being with the family? Do I get a experience with the family that is positive on some instances and rough in the others? Do I get worn out, exhausted shortly after being around the family for several hours? Do I feel a lot of pressure about giving gifts and showing the family that I can contribute the right gift or contribute a unique gift? So some of these stresses that you have can be mitigated. And the way you want to do that is, let's address first the social anxiety stress. So I think that's a huge one for me. Is I can do like a couple hours with the family, interfacing with a bunch of different, you know, siblings, their spouses, and extended family for a couple hours, but I cannot handle it for a long time. And so there are times when I need to leave and take a break. And this could be even not even around holidays, during social gatherings and stuff. My anxiety kicks in. Like, there's a point where I'm really enjoying everything. Then there's a point where my anxiety kicks in and it becomes overwhelming. And so I think if you have that issue, it's stepping away and giving yourself a moment to breathe. Go use the restroom. Go stand outside and just take in some nice, brisk, cool air, depending on where you're at. Give yourself space and then dive back in. Then give yourself some more space and dive back in. Pull someone aside that you're really good friends with and talk to them and kind of get back to one-on-ones, which I function really well in, and then dive back in. There are ways to cope with that, and it's just identifying what things help you kind of navigate through social anxiety and stress. The pressure of gifts is another one that's very much on our minds. And ultimately, think back to last year. So you had the same pressure last year. Do you remember what you got anyone? Like, think back to your best friend. What did you get them? I kind of remember what I got them, but I can't tell you everything I got them because I can't remember everything. So that's what I want to kind of point out when we're looking at getting gifts. A year from now, no one's going to remember, or they're going to remember and it's going to be a fond memory. So don't put as much pressure on getting gifts. I am a huge believer of handmade gifts, or if you have a skill set, then having that as a gift, it kind of is a way to relieve stress and do something creative if you are creative. If you are not a creative, you can always kind of look at what they like and get something they like, or do a gift card, which I don't really recommend just because gift cards is actually, a lot of times they go unspent. So my vote is to do a personalized gift or do something that you know they really want. So you could reach out to a spouse, or you could reach out to them and just quiz them and figure it out. I wouldn't worry about it being personalized as much. You know, I even have that stress myself. Like, once I picked the gift, if it's a personalized gift, it's personalized. If it isn't, it isn't. Then I'm done. Like, I don't put any thought or effort into it beyond that, and I let it go. And most of the time, all the stress and thought I put into the gift didn't matter because they enjoyed whatever I got them if I didn't put a lot of thought and stress into it. So I would pick a balance where you put a little bit of thought into it, but you're not completely buried in it. And also remember, gifts can be services. So, like for me this year, my gift to my partner is to completely do a detailed wash on his car. So completely, I'm going to go through and wash it on the outsides, do all the cleaning on the inside. It hasn't been cleaned in forever. And then I'm going to go through and use the Bissell wet vac machine and clean the carpet. So I'm really excited about that. So I think he'll really enjoy that. But if you don't enjoy, so I will admit I enjoy cleaning. So it's something I find kind of relaxing. So what I do is I put an audiobook on, I kick everyone out of the house and I clean, and it's so wonderful. Like, it gives me a peace. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a little bit out of this gift and give a good gift, in my opinion. And remember that a lot of people have already purchased what they want in life. So expensive gifts aren't necessarily on the agenda, and you shouldn't feel pressure to give expensive gifts. Give a heartwarming gift, give something that comes from your heart or something you connect with or something you think will connect with them, but it doesn't need to be the most expensive thing. So for me, a lot of my gifts center around either some of my favorite products, or it centers around photography. So I print out photos and give them away to friends and family. That's a hobby of mine. Or or services like cleaning someone's car. So those are things that you can do to kind of alleviate the pressure of gifts and gift giving, and let go of the expectation, let go of the pressure of you're there opening gifts and they're disappointed. Just let that go. A lot of that might be related to previous year's trauma where someone was disappointed with the gift you got them. But you got to let that go and just realize that if they like it, they like it. They don't, they don't. And if it's a service or if it is a handmade gift, they can't return it unless they give it back to you. Or if it is a gift they didn't like that you purchased, then they can return it to the store and get something else they like. So I think that's perfectly reasonable. So with jobs and family and the pandemic, those are things that are outside of your control. And what I mean by that is they are external factors that are coming into you, and they're very complex. It depends on the demands of your job. It depends on the demands of your loved ones, if this is parents or spouse or children. And it depends on what's going on with the pandemic in your particular area. And so that stress is a stress you got to manage through. There are some flexibilities that you can take to manage through them. So with a job, a lot of it is pre-planning. So if your work is something you can plan through, like my work, I can work extra weekends to get things done, or I can, plan really far ahead of time and then do a lot of the work I know that is coming ahead of time. With family, it's more difficult because you love and care for them. And so it's letting go and being present. And what I mean by that is sometimes you got to understand that other people are stressed out too, and they'll behave in odd ways, and not getting caught up in their drama and really being cognizant of your feelings and picking your battles. So like I said in an earlier podcast, you only have so many things you can care about. So pick your battles. And if there's something important that you're talking to a family member about or several family members about, and it's something that's important to you, that's a battle you picked. But if it isn't, and someone is causing drama or what have you, let it go. It's not going to help you, and sometimes not responding disarms them. So there's that. One thing that I will say that's rough is generational trauma. And really, it could be generational drama. Basically, what this is someone did something crappy some year in your ancestors, especially during the holidays, something crappy during an ancestor's experience, and that ancestor is carried forward generation over generation this bad response or this drama. And an example of that is, let's say that someone, 200 years ago, I think that's crazy, but who knows? So 200 years ago, someone got a gift that was really offensive to them, and it was making fun of them. So now, every year after that, this person is always prepared to be offended. So they're angry, they're bristled up, they're, just responding to this perceived threat that could be happening, but it never does. So then the children grow up in this. So then they have an angry parent who is always angry around the holidays. Then those children grow up and they have kids and they're angry all the time around the holidays because that's what they grew up with. And that's what I mean by generational trauma. Unfortunately, if it gets that in depth, it's really hard to break the cycle. And, really I would seek out professional, a therapist or someone to go through that. And really, I think it's appropriate to work with a therapist during this period of time, especially where it's extremely stressful. And I am also a huge proponent of getting mental education. And that's what I look at a therapist as. I don't look at them as quote unquote trying to fix you. It's about educating you. And it's about educating you about how your mind works and how your thoughts work and how the different pieces kind of come together. So if you can get to that point where you're comfortable going to a therapist, and really, I'm one of those people that thinks every single individual should be in therapy to get an education, because really the therapists are there to help, but they're educators. They're educating you on your mind and helping you navigate different complexities. Okay, enough about therapy. I think everyone should be in it. It's a gift that you can give yourself that will give forever. And I am going to do a podcast episode about picking a therapist. I think that's a really important thing to discuss. And so I'll talk about that in some future episode. So how do you approach all this potential mess that is the holidays? How do you approach it? The first thing I would do is step by step. Just put one foot in front of the other. Just every day, get up out of bed, do the things you want to accomplish for that day, go to bed. And don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Just be at peace, clear your mind, and let go. Don't overexert yourself. So there is a lot of pressure to do a lot of things during the holidays. Set boundaries. Know what you're capable of. Plan ahead as much as you can. And don't overexert yourself. Don't run yourself ragged. Be at peace. Let the peace kind of warm over you. And do some of the things that will relax you. Just breathe in and breathe out and relax. And I think a lot of that approach with the step-by-step and not exerting yourself can be very helpful. The other thing that I would do is be as present and engaged as you can be. And how I mean that is you're going through stress, but we're all going through stress. And I think a lot of that is paying attention, listening, and engaging family members and loved ones and all those people in our lives that we care about. Listen. Be at peace with their perspective. Don't take it personally. It's kind of funny because I think that we have this strong need to fit in. And so we take everything personally because we want to fit in, and this person is telling us that we don't when they can come back with some drama. Just listen, be at peace. My therapist once gave me a good piece of advice, and I'm going to give that here now because I think that's really relevant to this perspective. So, when someone comes to you with something, there's kind of two ways you can approach it if you really take on too much of their emotions. One way you can do it is to imagine a force shield around you. So imagine there's an imaginary bubble around you and nothing can penetrate that bubble. For me, that didn't work so well, but I think that could work well for certain people. For me, the version that worked better is if someone's bringing you trauma or bringing you issues. Imagine they're bringing in a suitcase and they got the suitcase in hand and they're bringing it in to you. And as they are talking about, imagine them opening the suitcase and taking a piece of something out of the suitcase, and you both are kind of looking at it and they're explaining what this is and how the trauma, and if it's something about you, they're describing this little piece of thing. So you kind of go through whatever items they have in the suitcase, and then imagine at the end of the conversation that they take all the items, put them back in the suitcase, and walk away with it after the end of the conversation. And that one gave me peace because it took all the responsibility from the conversation off my shoulders and I didn't bring it with me and they took it with them. I would look into different things like that to bring peace to difficult conversations, especially during the holidays. Another thing I'll say is setting boundaries is an important part of the holidays. So if there are loved ones or friends or what have you, people you care about in your life, set boundaries with them if they're going overboard. And you can set firm boundaries nicely without offending them if you're succinct enough. So a lot of that is think really about how you approach them in setting boundaries so you can get engagement. So, sometimes you'll just say, no, I'm not going to do that. Other times you can say, well, I have these other things I need to get accomplished. I'm so sorry I can't help you. That's an alternative way of saying no. Or you can say, yes, I can see this is totally important to you. I too care about this deeply. Unfortunately, ... And because you're only one person, you can't take on the world. So one thing I do, and I'm trying to improve this, is sometimes I ghost people. And if it gets too traumatic or what have you, then I just kind of walk away from the conversation. That's something I'm trying to work on. So in a way, it's effective because it kind of shuts down the conversation and puts the responsibility on the other person's shoulders. But it's not effective because then it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. It's a kind of protective measure that I've learned, since I was young, and it's something I'm working on where if there is something difficult going on, a difficult conversation with a family member or what have you, I am sticking around to listen and be there and be present, but I am not taking on the portion of the conversation, their portion. If there's behavioral changes or if there's apologies, I can definitely do that and, work on myself because I already know that life is a lifelong lesson of working on ourselves. So, but you can't take on their emotions and be effective, in my opinion. What you can do is listen, be there, have empathy, be there for them, hug them. You can feel bad and you can be sweet and good, but the trauma didn't happen to you, and so you can't really take on their emotions. What you can do, though, is be there and listen and be present. And sometimes that means hearing some horrible things. And just the act of listening and being present and facing those horrible things and not reacting to it, or, if you're trying to explain yourself, then certainly do that. But I think the act of just being there and listening is very important, even if it's something you don't want to hear. And so let's say that you go through a difficult conversation with a family member. Walking away is an option, but that item will be unresolved. Standing there listening and not reacting is an option, but then that person won't know how you're taking the information. So I think the best response and the best response we want to get to is a mature response of listening, taking in the information, understanding the person who is bringing the information to you, apologizing when appropriate, talking to them. And really, you can't change the past. You can't change your previous self. But what you can do is work towards a brighter future. And that's all you can do. There's no change in the past. But you can apologize and change if that's necessary. Or if they just want someone to listen. Imagine that they have their suitcase and they come in, or imagine you have a shield around you, and listen and be there. So now we kind of worked through some of the difficulties of the holidays, family relationships, difficult conversations. What do you do to get back to center? The first thing I recommend is a good amount of sleep. Unfortunately, my stress level is pretty high, and so I have difficulty sleeping. So the second thing I recommend is meditation, is doing things that relax you, going on a walk, taking a bath, reading a book, whatever thing that you do. Another thing could be working on your hobbies. Maybe that hobby is a gift that you're creating for someone. But make an effort not to go crazy. And I know that's a triggering word, and I apologize for those that are getting triggered. And what I mean by that is just focus on doing the things the best you can and then letting the rest go. So focus on self-care and focus on just being there. So work on your hobbies. There's excellent TV shows out right now, like Queen's Gambit is one I highly recommend, or Schitt's Creek is amazing. Very funny. And sometimes we need those escapes. Sometimes the stress of life is not funny. And so getting into those escapes, especially if you're depressed, if you can watch a comedy, that can offset the depression a bit or the sadness a bit. And get you into a different mindset, even if it's temporary. Take a long hot bath if you're into that. Put on a candle, put on some relaxing music, and just soak. But give yourself space to escape. So go and just do the things that make you happy within the realms of being cognizant that we're in the middle of a pandemic and blah, blah, blah. But give yourself space to escape and do the things that make you happy. But in the end, what it's going to be, and this is how I usually navigate through things long term, regardless, is I know every day is going to be an up and down. I know there's going to be one day that's better than the other. It's just one foot in front of the other, day by day. We're not playing the short game here. We're playing the long game. And so if we can get into that regimented step-by-step, get like routines that work for you and get, things that will keep you moving forward. Those routines for some people will be very helpful. For others, it's going to be different things, like doing something exciting, a trip, or going out and taking the car for a drive or something like that. just focus on the day by day. Live your best life and be happy. And if the stress becomes too much, be okay with occasional outbursts if they happen accidentally. Be at peace with that. Know that things have reached like an apex and you need to be by yourself and listen and be present and give yourself space. The holidays can be rough for some folks. So if you don't have that sense of roughness that others do, be especially tender and sweet to those around you during the holidays. In the end, we navigate through holiday over holiday. We get to see the ones we love. We get to see our friends. And we get to spend a few moments of just focused joy on our families and our loved ones. And so don't let the underlying stress and trauma play that down in the end. Do the things that will get you through the holidays, give you some peace. And I think I've given a lot of good ideas about how to approach it. Of course, there's many others, but what I really, really hope is I hope that each one of you has peace during the holidays, that has a lovely holiday, that doesn't feel stress, that you get to hug your family members and be thankful that they're here, and you get to contribute to another individual's life in a way that is positive. But don't be too cruel on yourself. Well, so have happy holidays. Next week's episode is going to be about the new year, so I'm going to record that the day after Christmas. And we'll talk about goals, we'll talk about goal setting, the importance of it, and that sort of stuff. But right now, just look at your family members, look at your loved ones, and just give them a hug for me. Have a great week, happy holidays, and I'll see you on the other side. This has been How to Love Living. Bye.